Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Millennial Business Podcast. I'm so excited to be joined today by the amazing Garrain Jones. I met him at a personal development event in Bali. He was one of the epic keynote speakers there. Garrain, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
And thank you so much for having me on. It's so great to see you.
You're most welcome. I know there's so many parts that I want to unpack further. Particularly, you just spoke about doing things that you didn't want to do, doing things that made you feel uncomfortable. And I know that's where you saw the biggest growth. And that was really one of the ways that you were able to change your mindset, which then changed your life, because you were doing all of these things that were uncomfortable, that pushed you out of your comfort zone, that made you feel like, oh, potentially, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway, just to see what happens on the other side. Could you talk a little bit more about that? Because so many people are scared to do things that are outside of their comfort zone. They're scared to get uncomfortable, but they don't realize what the possibilities are that can happen when you actually do that.
So I didn't have all of the knowledge that you just spoke about when I was doing the opposite. I only learned it when I connected the dots looking backwards on my life. I'm like, oh, that's what happened. So I was playing, like when you play with puzzles, you try to fit it wherever it has a specific, flow or formula that's the space. I was playing with this word play, change your mindset, change your life. And I was like, okay, so normally I take the escalators, change your mindset, change your life. So I'm gonna take the stairs. Normally I use gel soap, change your mindset, change your life. So I'm gonna use bar soap. Normally I wake up really late, change your mindset, change your life. So I'm gonna start trying to wake up early. Normally I eat fatty foods. Change your mindset, change your life. So I'm going to seek to get healthy. So I just kept playing with that over and over and over again. Thing about it is, when you build anything into a habit, it's actually activating two parts of you. The spiritual part of you, which is the subconscious mind, and the natural part of you, which is the conscious mind. And both of them are working in accordance to produce the physical evidence of whatever that thing is that you just keep, that whatever your habit is. So if your habit is alcohol, your life will look like that. If your habit is drugs, your life will be a manifestation of that. And it'll keep producing who you're being, your character. So at the time, I was just playing around and doing the opposite. I didn't know that an object that stays in that stays in motion, I forgot the saying, but the object that follows a path that stays in motion unless stopped by an even stronger force.
Yep.
I built a new pathway in my brain to just do the opposite. Now, it's not about big or small. We put those limitations. The brain only responds to progress. I kept progressing every day, sometimes 10 times a day. Oh, I don't feel like doing this. Change your mindset, change your life. So I'll do it. I got in the habit of doing the opposite. So when something big came along, I was already in the habit of doing it. So it just so happened that the big things was going to free personal development seminars, reading spiritual books and books on the soul and books on gratitude. I never read books, so I'm going to read something. Not going to the nightclub to chase women. I could do that a couple of nights, but I noticed that every time I did the opposite, it would create a different outcome. If you walk down the street, you normally turn left, you're going to end up on the same street every time. But if you walk down the street and you turn right, you'll be on a different street. I learned early on by doing the opposite, I would always produce different results, even if they were small. Well, those turned bigger and bigger and bigger over time. By the time I realized what you were saying, doing something that's difficult, I had already built the pattern of opposite as a habit. Already, it was already there. So it was easy for me to do something that's already in my habitual nature. So that's how I developed it.
Yeah, I love that, because so many people feel so uncomfortable doing something different. I think especially these days, it's so easy for people to sort of live in their bubble, stay in their comfort zone, not do anything different. But by you starting to practice just with small little things like changing the soap in your shower or taking the stairs versus taking the escalator, it's building up the resilience of your mindset to think, oh, okay, well, actually doing something that makes me uncomfortable or doing something that's different isn't bad. I'm not going to die. Nothing bad's going to happen. And so then when it came to these bigger choices, like going to these events or starting to read books or working on your mindset, whatever it was so easy for you because you'd already built up this resilience in your mindset, which I think is fantastic. And I love the concept that, which I'm not sure if you practice, but someone taught me one time that you, instead of rewarding yourself for getting to the destination of the goals that you set, if you reward yourself for taking the action and the actual doing, that's how you feel rewarded. That's how you get your validation, is by actually taking the action and doing something different versus actually trying to achieve the thing. Because if you don't achieve it, then you're just going to feel let down. But if
I've never heard of that before, and I'm going to write that down. By the way, leaders are learners. I always write down nuggets. Say that one more time.
Yeah. So if you, instead of rewarding yourself for achieving the goal and getting to the destination, reward yourself for the action that you're taking towards the goal. Because then no matter what the outcome is of the goal, whether you achieve it or not, you're still taking the action, you're still making progress and trying to achieve whatever it is. And so that is how you should reward yourself, which I think is a fantastic concept, because then it doesn't matter how big or small it is. It doesn't matter if it's just changing a bar of soap or going to your first ever personal development event. It's the taking the action of you trying to change something in your life, because change your mindset, change your life. You knew that you were trying to live it, trying to practice it. And that is how you eventually got to be where you are today. So yeah, I think it's pretty epic, everything you've created. I would love for you to share a little bit with the audience about your forgiveness process, because it's not something you've mentioned on the podcast today, but it was so life-changing for so many people at that event. There was so many people freaking out. There was people in tears of sadness, happiness. Like, you just gave us this exercise, threw it at us for lunch, and then just left it. And we were all like, oh my God, what are we doing? And it was so life-changing. So I would love for you to share a little bit about your forgiveness process and how that happened for you, because it changed my life. It changed so many people's life at the event. And I think it could help to change the audience life as well.
So I was in business with this guy, and we both had egos, and it was just like, however I felt about his team and the business he was doing, it was how I felt about him. And then one day I decided, I said, you know what? I'm done acting like this. I looked at myself in the mirror. I said, I'm just going to choose to love him no matter what. No matter how he responds or whatever. Whatever he does, that's his journey. But I'm not going to let someone else's state change who I am as a person. And I'm a loving person. I decided, I said, you know what? I'm just going to love no matter what, to just share that love. And he wasn't reciprocated, and it didn't matter. And I just gave it. And then I went on social media 3 days later, and then I posted something on social media that I had posted 3 days prior. 3 days prior, I tagged 50 people, and I got probably 10 likes. This was before I had all these followers. 3 days later, after I was coming from this lens of loving no matter what anybody says, I had like 475 likes and like 200 comments, and I'd never seen numbers like that. I'm like, what just happened? 3 months later, my business tripled. And I was like, yo, I spoke to my spiritual advisor, Monica. She said, Garrain, you released hate from your heart. And I was like, oh my God, there's probably so many people in my life that I have resentment towards, or that has resentment towards me from when I was a little kid till now. So what I did is I wrote a list of 250 names with the intention of clearing myself. And I was gonna, even if they did something to me that made me pissed off, if I held resentment towards them, I was gonna reach out to them and apologize for holding resentment, apologize for my part, and then create a possibility of what I would want the relationship to be. And if I didn't want the relationship, I just wanted them to be, both of us to be happy and living life on our own terms or whatever. But I wanted to create something that was different than the recreation of the past. Because if you don't close the loop of the past, it's going to keep finding you in every single area of your life. That's why people date the same kind of girls that they don't like, or the same kind of guys, or have the same kind of money in the bank account, because there's something from their past that hasn't been closed, an open loop, and that's actually controlling the outcome. So your future now becomes a manifestation of a recreation of your past. But when I was apologizing to all of these people, I forgave myself. And if it warranted, I forgave them for what they did. You know, I forgave my cousin for molesting me. I forgave the 2 men who murdered my father. Like, nobody has an excuse to harbor hate in their heart. When I did that, it seemed like all these really cool things start coming into my life, these blessings, these people, this money, this. So I would let go of hate on this side, and it would be filled with love on this side. I'm like, this is so interesting. Now, I say this because there were many people from when I was a little kid that held on to resentment towards me for the last 30 years. And I had no idea that people remember how you make them feel. So I apologized to them. It gave them the opportunity, if they wanted to apologize for resentment that they had towards me. People that did stuff to me, they're like, why are you apologizing? I said, because I held resentment towards you. So I wasn't expecting them to say anything. I wanted to clear myself. So I apologized to create the opening. And then I created how I wanted the relationship to go. And then from there, and this is what I was telling them, I didn't chicken out. I was calling people, let's meet in person. And then I said, I can imagine us, I'm creating the possibility for us to have an incredible relationship where we're both making money, being successful, and having incredible families, even if we're not friends. Almost all those people that I created new possibilities actualized in my life, including creating the possibility to get my daughter back, creating the possibility to attract my soulmate. All these things happen because possibility will pull you into the future because you've never been there before. So you actually got to create it. Anything that you're trying to make sense of, you'll try to make sense of it from past experience. If you're trying to make sense of a future from past experience, is how you get to the future, but still living in your past. But if you create the kind of life that you want, the kind of relationship, and I'm creating this, pray about it, meditate about it, affirm about it, it will be called into your life, and expect it. Expect it will be called into your life. I don't know when, but when you remove time and the space of the infinite, everything becomes possible.
I love that so much because for the audience, Garrain made us, so we had to make a list at this personal development event that we're at. And then he was like, okay, and I have a challenge for you. At lunch, go out and call people and tell them that you once resented them, but you want the opportunity to build a better relationship moving forwards, and just speak some truth to these people. And everyone was freaking out. Like, oh my God, we have to actually call them. What? Like, it was insane. And
it was a working lunch.
Oh my goodness. It was the best lunch of the whole event because it was such a transformational experience for so many people, things that they were holding on to in their past, holding on to from just recently, anything that's happened, any anger or resentment that had built up, they were finally able to be set free, I guess, from that anger and resentment, which I feel like is so important for people to have that knowledge, especially in this time with all of the world that's going on, everything with the media that's happening, the whole world situation with COVID, everything that's going on. It can be easy to feel angry, to feel resentment, to feel hurt and not know how to deal with all of that sort of stuff. I would love to hear your opinion, or hear you speak into a little bit what you think is going on with the world at the moment, anything to do with the current world situation and your opinion on that.
So I'm in two places. I have deep compassion for just things that I've personally experienced growing up just because of my skin color, and things and jobs that I've been denied when I've had way better just work ethic than someone else who didn't have the same color. And I kind of got used to it. So I'm in that place of understanding because I've actually grown through it. And unless you've actually grown through it, you can't make sense of a life you've never lived. It's like, I don't know what it's like to be a woman, so I'm not going to sit there and deny women's when a woman says women should have rights to have equal pay. I would never do that. I don't know what it's like to be a woman, so I champion it. And if I see that that's not right, like no man should ever be given power to determine laws about women's bodies, ever. That should come from a woman. And so that's how I feel. So me, especially when it comes to the racism and things that I personally experience, it's quite eye-opening how many people deny, it's like this huge wall, the fact that there are people who actually went through stuff and that are demanding rights to be treated the same. And it's clear, and it's like, no, we're all created equal. Yeah, but we're not treated equally. And I had a conversation with somebody the other day. He was like, no, he was like, people fought and died for freedom, da, 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 and he just couldn't. I was like, bro, I was like, you got any kids? He said, yeah. I said, you have girls? He said, yeah. I said, deny one of your daughters the same right to do that your other daughter will have that she can do freely for 30 days. And then after 30 days, say, oh, you can now go and do it. And tell me there wouldn't be a difference in her attitude. And he was like, whoa. I said, now imagine 400 years, you're free. Imagine not being able to read a book for 200 years and say, hey, now read. Deny, 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 and say, hey, you're free. Imagine seeing all of these other oppressed cultures getting money for being enslaved or things that happened to them and their families. But now imagine being in a culture where that's denied clearly to the culture and their families. And he is like, oh my God. Now here's what happened. I love telling stories. The next week, he kept asking his boss for a raise. His boss just kept denying him. He kept denying him. And he started getting rageful. And as soon as he got rage, because he was like not being listened to, he called me in tears. He said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I have inadvertently been racist and I've denied you the opportunity to be heard. And I got a taste of that because my boss for 1 week wouldn't listen to me. And I became angry and rageful. I said, yeah. So I can't blame somebody acting out of rage, whose voice doesn't feel like it's ever been heard. And I said, yeah, man, you have a daughter. If she says, dad, 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 and you ignore her for 30 minutes, watch what happens. She will start crying and it will eventually turn into rage. This is what's happening in the world. And I said, so to deny it is to deny your own daughter. Like it's that. Now take out your daughter, put in a black life. That is why people feel that way. That's one part of me. Another part of me, I'm at a place in my life where nobody has the power to determine how I'm going to feel. I have compassion, but from that compassion, I'm like, how can I talk to people? How can I educate people? How can I live with peace? How can I take all of this love that's in my heart and pour it onto a human soul? Because underneath all of this is people who do not love themselves. Everything else that has a label on it is on the surface, but underneath is a deep guilt and a deep pain and a deep hate. And as long as you have hate, and I don't care who you are, as long as you harbor hate, you will be digging your own grave. So my take on everything is to show people how to unlock their own jail cell that they put themselves in and throw away the shovel.
It's so powerful, I think, especially because, well, coming from Australia, raised in sort of the middle class, didn't really have an understanding, or not like this topic isn't something that they teach us about in Australian school. And so when all of this stuff started happening, it was very interesting for me because I don't consume the news. Like I don't watch the news in the morning or anything like that. I just see a little bit of stuff on social media when I'm on there. And it was very interesting because as soon as all of this stuff started happening, I had multiple people messaging me saying, Taylor, you need to be talking about this on your social media because this is such an important topic. And you have an audience that's listening. You need to be talking about this now. And I was like, I don't know about this. I have no idea what is going on. I have no idea what people have been through. And it was it had to be for me such a learning process to actually even understand just what even happened. But I cannot even comprehend how it feels because I've never experienced anything like this. And I think for me, that was the biggest thing is how can people, it doesn't make sense to me how people can have an opinion about something that they've actually never experienced or felt in their heart. How can you tell somebody else how to feel, how they should feel? That's not what, you can't do that. You can't tell someone else how they should feel. And that's my opinion of it. So to see people on social media saying, this is ridiculous, it's all like saying all of the negative things that they should not be saying. It just filled me with this rage because I'm such an empath and I could feel the general consensus of rage and hurt and sadness from everything that had been going on. And then there was just people that didn't care and were saying, no, you shouldn't feel like that. And I was like, you can't tell other people how to feel. That's not okay in my books anyway.
No, thank you for sharing that. And it's been a learning process. And this is nothing new for me. I've actually experienced this my whole life. Even when the George Floyd thing happened, I thought that somebody was reposting something because it looks like something I've seen my whole life. Now, there are some people that just like, oh, white people are bad. They're not. And I learned this when I was 5. See, when I was 5, I was on the playground and there was four white boys that were chasing me. And they were calling me the N-word and racial derogatory terms, and they jumped me and they beat me up, and this was happening all the time. And then one day I was running, and this other white boy runs out in front of them, and he says, hey, Leave him alone. He didn't do anything to you. And they stopped and never messed with me again. I was 5. So that showed me that there was a difference. I don't need to be saved. I don't need a helping hand. However, I love solidarity and I love partnership. I've earned everything that I wanted. All I'm asking for is I don't want to have to work 10 times harder just because of my skin color, which I've had to do. I've been passed up on things where I'm just like, really? I see what's happening, but I'm used to it. So, but what I learned was they didn't listen to me while I was yelling and screaming, but they listened to the person that looked like them, skin color wise. Because my friend goes, so how can I help? He was like, what do my words matter? And when I shared with him that story, I said, they don't want to hear from me. There's already this hate there, but there's a connectiveness just by the way that you look. It's sad to say, but that's just the nature of the thing. People listen to who they relate to. So when the boy said stop, they stopped. When I said stop, they went harder. So when people are using their voice and they're using their platform, I'm learning this, I'm learning that. I started having all of these conversations with so many people. Somebody was like, oh, all lives matter. I was like, yo, I know that. But all lives can't matter if Black lives are not a part of the conversation. You're only saying this because you want to be a part of the conversation. We're all created equally. Somebody said to me, he was like, oh, I don't see color. I was like, don't you deny my uniqueness. You do see color. What do you do at a stoplight? Red, green. So you do see color. But if you choose to deny something, you're already telling me where you are. I love your skin tone. I love my skin tone. I love my African brother's skin tone. I was like, I love all the variations, but I also love the oak trees. I like this kind of tree, and I love all different variations, and all of the variations make up trees. But but if the one tree is on fire, I'm like, oh, well, all trees matter. No, that tree is on fire. So let's take care of that tree so it doesn't spread fire to all the other trees. So these are the conversations. I've been on 92 podcasts since the George Floyd instance, bringing awareness to audiences that aren't used to hearing these conversations from someone like me. And that's where I got to use my privilege, because my privilege is I've been trusted amongst all nations, all cultures, Muslims, Jews, white, Black, Hispanic, been to all these different countries. And because I had an in, I could have conversations, and a lot of them were uncomfortable. And I heard them, no problem, I heard them. Now you get to hear me.
I love that.
It's amazing. It's been so beautiful.
Yeah, I can imagine, because I think spreading awareness for this sort of stuff, especially to people who aren't educated on it, like myself, and I'm sure my audience, quite honestly, isn't as educated as they could be. So the fact that you can bring awareness and shed light and share your opinion, and I love that you have the two opinions as well. I think that's so beautiful, because you have this opinion of complete compassion and understanding, and knowing that there are people that have hatred filled, not are filled with hatred, but have hatred within them. And that's why we still need to show compassion and love and everything. But then you also have this amazing other value and opinion that you can provide as well, which is so fantastic. So thank you for that. We have gone a little bit over what my normal podcasts go, but it's been such an important conversation. It's been so valuable, and we've touched on so many fantastic things. So I would lastly just love for you to share with the audience how they can get their hands on your book, because I have heard fantastic things about it. Yes. Tell the audience about your book.
Okay, so everything that I've learned while living in my car and wanting to take my life 9 years ago to breathing life into humanity and traveling the world and doing everything that I'm doing, I put it in a book in very practical ways. So it's not this esoteric, it's very practical, it's spiritual, it's practical, it's about energy, it's about the whole forgiveness, everything. I put it inside the book, easy to read, so you can read it and reread it and reread it. And you can find it on Amazon in paperback and Kindle, where I'm currently working on the audiobook, but it's in Spanish and English, and it's Amazon Global. And yeah, get that, enlighten it, share it with other people. And you can also find me on Instagram, which is Garrain.Jones.
Amazing. Yeah, we will link everything in the show notes, guys. If you want to check out his book, just search for Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. It is absolutely, even the cover cover image is so beautiful. Garrain, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I'm so excited for my audience to hear this episode because it was absolutely epic. So thank you so much for coming on.
And thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. All right, guys, until the next episode, we'll see you later. Bye.